Leadership is not a package where you take it and say, here it is, I give you the package. Leadership comes from what you do, how you do it, how you live, what have you acquired in terms of your training, your experience, your track record, and all that. And what I'm saying is that the young people must strive. They shouldn't expect it to be a parcel delivered by DHL to them. And they must know that nothing comes just for nothing. You work for it.
It's good to know you're still with us on AM today. And just before we went on that break, I said we'll be looking at the bill, proposing for the creation of more states in Nigeria. In fact, to be specific, 31 more states in Nigeria, and it's being considered before the National Assembly. And several people, analysts that have been taking their time to really analyze what impacts is this going to have on our national development. Some would say, is this what the nation needs at this particular time to surmount any of its challenges, confronting it when people are clamoring for the cut down in the cost of governance, for instance. We want to increase the number of states we're having, whereas some other people believe that the country is too large, to be managed as it were right now. So, hence, the need to go into more divisions, by way of creation of more states, which will make it more sizable to manage, and more representation, yes, of the marginalized communities or ethnicity in the country. Well, this morning with us on AM today, we've got a lawyer and a politician who analyst to look at the issue with us this morning. We've got the former lawmaker, I beg your pardon, the pros and cons on national development, of more state creation. Honorable Sunday Olajide in the house this morning. Good morning, sir. Yes, I'm looking at creation of more states for Nigeria. This move, is it something that's going to solve any of Nigeria's current problems?
Well, thank you very much. I think the people moving the idea are not foolish. They have their reasons for moving the ideas. And of course, we have some countries of the world that are not as big as the state in Nigeria. So, dividing Nigeria into more states, well, from their own perspective, they believe it's a way of reaching out to, to be able to reach out to more people, to be able to, take governance to the grassroots. But really, is that what we want at this point in time in Nigeria? I think there are other ways. I think from my own side that there are other ways we can bring, development to our people in the states or to the grassroots. First of all, if we are looking at, if the idea is to bring about development, have we even talked about how to confront the security problems we have in the country, to grow more agricultural products? Our people who are working in the remote areas who have not been able to go to farms, be able to work, will they not be able to work? Then what about bringing in, more investment opportunities for people to invest more in the country, so that we can have more developmental, companies and organizations that will bring about more development. But if we're talking about creating more states, the cost of governance already as it is high. And if we are creating more states now, you have more, government officials. You have so many public officials again to cater for. But then they will have this expanded, unnecessarily greedy government, cost centers. But if we have, limited, as it is in Nigeria today, I believe that there are more things you can do to bring about development. For example, we're talking about, let's look at the power that the power that resides with the federal government.
Okay.
If power is, more devolution of power to the states and more resources to the states, the current states as they are will be able to do more developmental projects, and we should bring about more development. Then at the same time, we have quite a number of in our law, in our constitution, some things that are still in the exclusive list of the federal government. If we are able to, bring some of these into concurrent, where states can participate. For example, you see now that the states can do more in the area of security, where the state can do more in the area of power. For example, I'll give you an example. Those states now, when you look at the BDC, or what's their name now, the power company. So this estimated bill has been the order of the day, where people are just, being given estimated bills here and there. But when the government of all those states come up with the idea of its own meter, people can buy, and as I'm talking to you today, we have more than 6,000 already in the BDC network. And they're still coming up with that. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that even the law, some of the things that are in the exclusive list can be, brought in, can bring them into the concurrent list, so that the states, as they are, can do more for the people.
All right, Mr. Olajide, Interestingly, you've been at the House of Assembly, and this conversation started again from the House of Representatives, which also the legislative arm of government, following the proposal or the message or the letter from the House of Representative Committee on the review of the 1999 Constitution, which has proposed the creation of 31 states. So it's like saying your people in the legislative arm, which is a terrain you are very much familiar with, looking at this, considering this. But we'll come to what are the requirements later for this to actually scale through. But for you, at a time when Nigeria is going through a lot of reforms, and this conversation is also coming up, do you think this move is being felt politically, or for economic reasons, or for cultural reasons? And in your experience as lawmakers, do you also think a lot has been considered before this committee has pushed for this to the...
About creation of states. Like I said earlier, there are so many reasons for people to push for creation of states. Some, well, like you said, might be just political, some might be just cultural, some might just be what I would regard as, a realistic problem sometimes. When some people are not, for example, they are not in power within their states, they feel probably marginalized within their states. They are not where they think they should be. They start, pushing for let there be creation of states so that their section again can, have that same power. They can be in power. See, some of these, a whole lot of things. Some are very. As of today, some states are not viable. Without the federal allocation, a good number of states cannot pay their, bills, you cannot pay their workers, you cannot bring about developmental activities. So it is important to look at how viable, because the more you divide them, then the less they become in terms of ability to, put resources together and develop the state. So to me, even though this has been coming severally, and this is not the only assembly where that is coming from. In the 9th Assembly, yes, we have the same thing. Even National Assembly is trying to make it open, make it public, to let the public know. Yes, we've been having this proposal, we have been having these bills. So, but either the bill will now see the light of the day or not. It's on that. So,
question I would like to ask.
Okay, so.
Yes, as in this bill, do you see it feasible? Looking at it, that even just the creation of LCDs, in some states, created a lot of labaloo, like it's supposed not to be here, it's supposed to consist of so and so communities, it's supposed to be headquartered in so and so place. In some places, it even resulted in communal clashes. So, creation of more states, do you think it is going to heighten security concerns in the country?
Well, number one, I'll tell you, first of all, creating states is a very rigorous task. It's not something as simple as people talk about it because of the constitutional requirement. If you look at the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Section 8, subsection 1 to 3, the requirements there are very tough because you must have the passage by the National Assembly, both the Senate and the House of Representatives, and that is majority votes in each of those houses. You must have in at least 2/3 of the states assembly. At the same time, talking about local government, talking about referendum and a whole lot of things. So how would they all come together? So it's like it's an aspect of the constitutional, changes that are, that is tough and tougher than even some other, we have constitutional amendment in recent times. But when you talk about state creation, it becomes a more difficult thing because so many things, like you said, will come into play. You have different interests. Some people will want it to go, some will not want it to go. Some will look at it. For example, talking about Oyo State, talking about the coastal,
Yes.
those
Those coastal states.
definitely Ondo State will not want some part of its rich resources area to be carved out and begin to like, so who approves that? So they now go to the House of Assembly in Ondo State and we agree that, okay, part of our state should be carved out. So you see, would they be able to get the 2/3 majority in the Senate and the House of Rep for this, or would they be able to even get it from the state itself? So if you get it from one state, would the other state agree? So
Okay,
I mean,
it's a rigorous one, definitely, just like you've mentioned. So you rightly established that the structure that we have at this time in the country is not perfect yet. And perhaps some of those who are moving for this are also looking at ways of making that perfection. But since all of the analysis you've given is pointing towards the direction that perhaps this is not the time for us to have this conversation, how do we now start addressing, maybe in other ways, some of these imbalances that imperfect structure that we have before even talking about the creation of states? Little steps we to take.
Well, thank you very much. I mentioned something like that before while talking that, look, yes, the imperfection in the country is not something we can just address one day like that. I mean, maybe gradually, but first of all, we look at the power at the center. It's too high. I mean, it's so much, so strong. Then even resources at the disposal at the federal level is so high. So maybe first of all we should be looking at how there can be devolution of power and resources to the state.
What of the local governments?
Well, same thing, because the local government are components of the states. So then I mentioned another thing that there are some things in the exclusive list that it's only the federal government that can work on. The states are not permitted to go there. So if the states are allowed to go there, if they can, I mean, maybe in areas of exploration and all that, if the states too can be allowed to go into that area, then the states will be more productive, so, and the state become more viable, then there can be better healthy competition between states. But as it is today, where some states cannot even pay their salaries without federal allocation, if you now want to divide the state again, don't forget that you have the whole structure of governance. It will be more tough for some of these states. So to me, let us look at more at areas of security for now. Let us look at how we can make the existing, system, bring about investment opportunities, encourage investment, encourage production, and see how we can go even beyond the agricultural or raw production to refined production. There was so much talk about the regularization, the subsidy removal and all that. But at least now for some time now, petroleum product is stable. You can have it at any point in time, just because now we have a refinery working. Let us look at even the state's refineries, the one we have. How can they work? How can we make them more efficient and more viable? There are some government organizations too that we can even, development than just splitting states into smaller components.
All right.
All right.
Of course, yes. Since we're still having the conversation on the state creation proposal and of course some of the other areas we need to look at, you were once the chairman of the House. Just yesterday, the Senate passed the 2025 budget of 54.99 trillion naira, and of course, a lot of conversation is already happening on that passage already. When you now look at the budgetary allocations, both at the federal and the state government levels. There are conversations usually around um, channeling funds to ways where productivity can be really driven, which can bring more development to the states or to the federal government, and of course ensure that the government has more money. What are your thoughts in this regard for states across board, for the federal government in terms of prioritizing what exactly is necessary? Because so peculiarity, some would say there are budgetary allocations, but there are no funds to run the state. So in terms of priority, tell us what should be.
Well, thank you very much. I think we need to do more about bringing the level of disparity between budgetary proposal and actual implementation. See, a situation where year in, year out we have bogus figures, and in terms of implementation you have maybe 20-30% budget performance. It's low, and of course we want to believe that the best practice is close, reasonably close to what you have budgeted for. We all know that budgetary provision is not the same thing as actual implementation. So, but it's what you envision, looking at all the parameters that okay, if this and this come into play, we'll be able to do this and this and this. Sometimes what you envisage to come in may not even come in, and when they come into government, sometimes because of policy changes, some of these things changes come in between the process of budget implementation, and you discover that there is a deviation from original plan. So all these have to be addressed. And but for example, for all those states, I think reasonably over time, we have been very conscious of the need for us to have a higher level of budgetary implementation. Is going to be the level of performance is going to be reasonably high.
All right, as much as we would like to continue this conversation, we just have to put, let's say, a pause on it for now, because it's going to be an ongoing discussion as the National Assembly continues, to look at the parameters or take a look at the bill for more states creation in the country. That will also have reasons to talk about it. Thank you very much for coming on the show this morning, Honorable, to give us your thoughts on the topic. Yes, our dear viewer, our guest has been Honorable Sunday Olajide, a former lawmaker in Ondo State. Once again, thank you very much. Yes, our dear viewer, we take a short break now, and when we return, yes, we'll be talking about law matters. Don't go away.
Leadership is not a package where you take it and say, here it is, I give you the package. Leadership comes from what you do, how you do it, how you live, what have you acquired in terms of your training, your experience, your track record, and all that. And what I'm saying is that the young people must strive. They shouldn't expect it to be a parcel delivered by DHL to them. And they must know that nothing comes just for nothing. You work for it. Leadership is not a package where you take it and say, here it is, I give you the package. Leadership comes from what you do, how you do it, how you live, what have you acquired in terms of your training, your experience, your track record, and all that. And what I'm saying is that the young people must strive. They shouldn't by
today, and just as I promised before we went on that break that we will return, yes, we'll be looking at Love Matters, because today is the day set aside, to celebrate love. It's the St. Valentine's Day, a man who is said to have shown people love, and who encouraged lovers, at the time when the reigning emperor wouldn't allow young men get married, and he had to do some solemnization for them, because he believes there's need, to share love. So today, to discuss Love Matters, yes, quite a number of things, are added.
If you say you love someone, what went wrong? You fell in love, you got married, or you are presently in a relationship, and somehow in between the relationship, some months, weeks down the line, some years down the line, the trajectory changes. The feelings just seem to disappear. The intensity of the love you feel for one another seem to be falling apart. So I personally believe that love is not enough to sustain marriage or relationship. Love is the foundation. But you cannot live on a foundation. You can't call people, I have a foundation, come and celebrate with me. So love is the starting point. But there are other building blocks that will help sustain a lasting relationship and marriage. So if you leave it to love, there are laws that govern love. There are laws that keep love running, because love tank can run dry. Love tank can run dry. You can, after a while, the feelings may not be. I've been married for 15 years, and I can categorically say that it's not every day I feel very excited about my husband. I love him, but if it's just the feeling of love that I'm looking at, I would probably not be in the marriage anymore. So that's why a typical white person, because it's very rampant over there, after 1 year, I'm not in love with you anymore, and then they leave, and then they have a cycle of changing partners, expecting one mysterious love, and it's a cycle.
Okay, let's come to it. If you look at the attributes of love, it's unconditional,
yes,
it's eternal, it's sacrificial, and all of that. People saying I love it.
You understand covenant, you understand commitment, and you are there.
So I'm looking at our time, and I'm interested because I want to head to site.
Okay.
We're doing love as a form of construction.
Yes.
You spoke about foundation, which love is, and of course, need to build blocks and all of that. Supply us the blocks and the cement.
All right, thank you. So like I said, love is the starting point. I love this person. But then you need some other things. There are essential ingredients needed to sustain love. It's like love is the jump starter. You start rolling. Most of us did it when we were younger. You roll the tire. when there is no external force applied, something remains in the same state until an external pushing it. So I believe you can, in fact, I tell people, I'm a Christian. If God tells you this is the person you're getting married to, I've seen people say, but God told me, but they still failed in their marriages. So God telling you is not enough. If you don't put the necessary skill, the skill set for relationship and marriage, all those things have to be in place. The number one thing is a high sense of commitment. It takes commitment for marriage and relationship to work. And I've realized that this generation, we are losing the sense of commitment. We can't stay through. I'm not talking about an abusive relationship. Your wife is beating you. People think there's only men that beat women. There are women too that I know that their wives are dealing with them big time too. So I'm not talking about an abusive relationship scenario, but I'm talking about, as marriage is a relationship between two givers and forgivers. Two givers and forgivers. So you need a strong sense of commitment to enjoy your relationship. If you are committed,
The dysfunctionality of the society, many people have said, leads to the very foundation, like the family setting and all of that. So, in a marriage situation, where children are involved and all of that, what ought to be the posture of both parents, in order to stick together to raise children who have value or assets to the society?
all right, thank you very much. That's very important, because I wish parents knew the implication their decisions make on their children. Sometimes we can be very selfish as parents. We are thinking, me, how I feel. But what about the children? They are your responsibility. They need to have a safe place. They need to grow up emotionally. They have to be healthy emotionally, spiritually, in all spheres. Parents who are at the verge of separation, sometimes, some situations, there's really no direct answers to some of these things. We have some peculiar situations, because I've seen quite a number of cases. We've had that it just could not work. They just needed to stay apart for the mental health of even the children. You see your father bastardizing, abusing your mother every time, and it's already creating a psychological effect on the children. In such a case, it's usually best for the children to be taken out of the scene, because eventually you are sowing seeds into their hearts, and yes, you are sowing the wrong seeds, and it will play out in the future. Some men are just a display of what they saw growing up. They never saw good communication. The way to settle arguments is to fight. You bring out your fist. That was all they saw growing up. I heard a man who told me that the wife confronted him for not giving her house key, and she said, "What's the big deal? I never saw my dad give my mom money for anything, and we were fine." That was what he saw growing up, and then that was the paradigm he grew up with. So for parents, I want to indulge, and I want to crave your indulgence as parents, that sometimes because of the children, we let things work. We need to they are the future of tomorrow. They need to be healthy psychologically. They need to be healthy emotionally. That is how they can it can affect them in their academics. It can affect them in their decision making. There's so much it can do.
So, since I was picking your words,
Okay.
so as I feel the question,
Okay.
you talk about the tank not running dry and the tank perhaps running dry. So let's paint two scenarios. Since it's Valentine's Day and
Yes.
the young folks will be doing their thing as usual.
Yeah.
So even though Shadi is only about 130,000
Oh my God.
as Valentine. So for at what point? Because you mentioned it's in relationships. There has to be givers and forgivers.
Yes.
At what point should or will the tank run dry? Maybe there's been a lot of giving and forgiving. At what point would that tank run dry? To say, look, perhaps it's best to say, let's move apart in a relationship. And at what point, or perhaps what can we do to sustain that tank continues to be filled, even when we have giving and forgiving?
I think
or
that's the
taking?
way to go
But I'm
because
going to
of our
start.
time.
Yes, I'm going to
How
start
do you
with that.
keep the tank?
I'm going to start with that. There's this principle of inflow and outflow. If somebody keeps giving you, when relationship, two people, one party can be the only person giving and giving and giving and giving. After a while, you get tired of giving. It's both ways. And there's something called love language. There's something called, you have to understand your spouse's love language. Everybody has an imaginary love tank that wants to be filled. And you know the funny things about human beings, we want to love our spouse the way we want to be loved. Instead of loving our spouses the way they want to be loved. So we have to learn to speak our spouse's love language. Your spouse wants quality time. Your spouse's love language is gifts. You have to recognize your spouse's love language and speak their love language. Not if you like gifts, then your spouse likes quality time, and you are buying your spouse gifts, and you're wondering why she's not appreciative. Thank you for the gift, but that's not my primary. I want you to spend time with me. My love language is service. I want you to do things for me, but you are sending me money. Thank you for the money, but you are not speaking my love language. My love language is do things for me without me asking. So understand each other's love language and love your spouse the way your spouse wants to be loved, not the way you want to love your spouse.
All right, yes, by way of wrapping up, I wish we could have more time to talk about this, but then we have to just wrap off. But then, before we go, because I know that there are many young folks there today who are planning to make today memorable. I'm not talking about those who are planning on indulging devices. Please watch where you go today and what you do. Don't do what you wouldn't like your parents to hear or things that could be detrimental to your future. That's for you, for those of you. But for those who are old enough and are thinking of making today spectacular, maybe they want to make a proposal and all of that. Yes, you've heard something from Pastor Lara saying that, you know, understanding the love language and all of that. People like I who are probably making or thinking of making 25 grand, you know.
It's fine.
Yes, at least Priscilla Ojo is holding us sway now with JP 2025. So, for those people who are at the verge of making this decision, what are those things they should consider so that they won't get to a time